Hello, GH fans, grab your snacks, silence your phone, and maybe pour a stress drink, because Port Charles is on the verge of a complete meltdown. We're talking handcuffs on Curtis, a baby in crisis, Willow walking a razor's edge between devoted mom and fugitive in the making, and Anna Devane trapped in a twisted Faison-style nightmare with a kidnapper who's finally stepping out of the shadows. This isn't just drama, this is scorched earth storytelling. Today's episode gave us one of those deceptively quiet emotional gut punches, Michael struggling to tell Wiley that mommy married the man accused of shooting the love of her life. Meanwhile, the cops slapped cuffs on Curtis Ashford, Portia literally hit the floor clutching her belly, and Nina just did what Nina does best, ran her mouth, blew up lives, and then acted shocked when everything exploded. And over at Wyndemere? Sidwell is smiling like a cat who just bought Sonny Corinthos canary, and Pascal is serving macarons while secretly holding Anna prisoner. Totally normal, right? But here's the kicker, this isn't just about what we saw today. Spoilers say tomorrow and beyond could be the turning point. Willow gets new hope, Portia's crisis escalates, Trina questions everything she thought she knew about her parents, Curtis hatches a bold plan from behind bars, and a possible manhunt looms over Port Charles with Willow's name all over it. The PCPD's new evidence is narrowing the field down to 2 suspects, Willow and Curtis, and only one of them is likely to run. And let's not forget the wild card in all this, Willow's marriage of convenience, or revenge, to Drew Cain. GH fans, when you mix custody warfare, unresolved cult trauma, a dead twin sister, a dead ex, a newly dead baby mama, and a bone marrow miracle cancer survivor who's never really dealt with her past, you're cooking up the perfect storm for a breakdown or a breakout. So let's dive in and pull apart every messy thread, because Port Charles is about to learn what happens when you push Willow Tait way too far. Let's start at the Quartermain mansion, where Michael Corinthos is trying to be the stable dad while seething with rage. He turns to Kristina for help explaining to Wiley that Willow married Drew. And you know it's serious when Michael, king of I'm fine, I've got this, actually asks for emotional advice. Kristina comes in like the voice of lived trauma, reminding him what it was like growing up with adults screaming and scheming around her. She doesn't tell Michael he's wrong to be angry, she knows he's furious that Willow moved on with the man tied to Sam's death and his kids' broken family. But she tells him to bury that anger when he's with Wiley. Just tell the truth, Mom married Drew. You don't know when he'll see her again. It's up to the judge, not Daddy. It's actually mature, grounded advice in a Corinthos house. Mark your calendars. The scenes with Wiley are brutal in their simplicity. The kid asks if his mom looked pretty. Of course she did, even Scout thought she was beautiful. Then he asks the heartbreaking question, why weren't he and Amelia there? Why didn't they get to see their mom marry Drew? Michael has to say the words no child should hear, you can't see your mom until a judge says so. Wiley breaks down, saying he doesn't want to live at Drew's house, and Michael promises that the Quartermain mansion is his home and he's not going anywhere. It's a really painful contrast, Willow claiming she's doing everything for her kids, while those same kids are crying in a big cold mansion Daddy swears they'll never have to leave. Meanwhile, over at the PCPD, Dante, Nathan, and ADA Justine Turner are deep in detective mode. With Willow's trial just a week away, Justine is livid that they're entertaining a new suspect. From her point of view, introducing Curtis this late gives the defense a golden doubt card. But Dante and Nathan push back, they've got new evidence, and they can't ignore it. The brown dog bartender places Curtis arriving later than he claimed. And then the Savoy security footage shows Selena Wu entering the club, blowing his I was alone story to pieces. That leads to the Edward Quartermain gun question. How did Curtis get his hands on that antique weapon? Dante floats the idea that he could have snagged it while working with Michael at the mansion. Nathan suggests another angle, Portia meeting Monica, possibly giving her access to the house and the gun. Justine makes it clear, either they link Curtis to the shooting or they clear him fast, because if they don't, Willow's defense team will turn the entire case into a circus and walk her right out the door. Over at the hospital, Portia's guilt is eating her alive. She calls Isaiah into her office and confesses that their affair gives her a motive to shoot Drew, and the defense knows it. If she's called to testify, she'll have to tell the truth under oath. Portia's instinct is to be honest with Curtis before the courtroom does it for her. Isaiah pushes back. He insists she doesn't owe Curtis that level of self-sabotage, and if anything comes out, he'll take the professional hit. But Portia is spiraling. She's tied up in guilt about Curtis, the baby, Trina's paternity history, and now the shooting. Then, like a wrecking ball in designer clothes, Nina barges into Curtis' office. She reveals she told someone that Alexis' strategy was to paint other suspects and that she mentioned Portia's name. Curtis connects the dots in 1 second flat. Nina tried to save her daughter by throwing his pregnant wife under the bus. He lashes out, accusing her of making sure his child is born with a parent in prison. They go back and forth, Curtis reminding her that Willow had as good a motive as anyone, especially with Nina and Drew's fingerprints all over her ruined life. And just when tensions are at a boiling point, Nathan arrives. He yanks Nina out into the hall and then we get the big moment. Curtis is arrested. He paces behind his desk like a trapped animal right before the cuffs come out. Portia arrives just in time to see her husband being read his rights and led away, and the horror on her face says it all. Once she's back at the hospital, guilt spikes into physical pain. She clutches her belly, collapses, and suddenly the baby they were both trying to protect is in danger. At the same time, Willow is in the war room with Alexis and Suzanne, trying to force her way onto the stand. She insists she has to testify. She's not the broken woman from that custody case anymore. She thinks she can sway a jury by sheer emotional force. Alexis, who's actually seen courtrooms, strongly disagrees. She knows Willow's history of bad decisions and emotional outbursts, and she's convinced the prosecution will turn Willow's "I do anything for my kids" mantra into proof of attempted murder. Suzanne decides to run a mock interrogation, and it's brutal. Alexis walks Willow through every painful landmine: Drew's role in her losing custody, their failed first wedding attempt, his affair with Nina, the night of the shooting. Willow's answers are raw and emotional, but to Suzanne, they read as defensive, over-explaining, and manipulative. Her love for her kids is obvious, but so is the fact that she might have snapped. The verdict from the mock juror? Guilty. It stings, and Drew jumps to Willow's defense, but Willow silences him. She needs the truth, even when it hurts. Alexis makes it clear, testifying is Willow's call, but she trusts Suzanne's instincts. Willow's pattern of bad choices is well documented, and all it takes is one more desperate act to tip her into monster territory in the eyes of a jury. And right on cue, Nina bursts in with a legal bombshell: Curtis has been charged. The implication? The DA might drop the charges against Willow, or at least the case against her is about to shift in a big way. While all of this is going on, Wyndemere is a nest of snakes. Jenz Sidwell reveals his big plan to Lucy, Brooklyn, and Felicia. He wants to revive Deception by using his minerals and zincite, selling at cost, shipping to Piers 55 and 56. Brooklyn is suspicious the second he mentioned Sonny's Piers, because we all know Sonny doesn't just sell to people he hates without a reason. Sidwell claims he raised his offer so high that even Sonny couldn't say no. Yeah, okay. He then demands full control of all materials for Deception, with everything coming through him so he can control prices. Brooklyn balks, knowing Tracy will never rubber stamp this. Meanwhile, Lucy is clearly under his spell, wringing her hands, torn between loyalty to Maxie and the thrill of being attached to a powerful, wealthy man, which, let's be real, is very on brand for Lucy Co. Felicia and Brooklyn leave feeling like something is off, and Felicia clocks Lucy laughing a little too comfortably with Sidwell as they walk out. Red flags everywhere. And then there's Anna. Locked in a room, she flips open a notebook and finds a message: "Faith will get you out." She folds the page and suddenly the message reads, "Faison, you will get out." That's chilling even by GH standards. She sees the names of Britt and Nathan and remembers her conversation with Dante about Faison's children reappearing, right as Brennan wanted Valentine's intel. Anna starts putting the pieces together. Is Faison somehow alive, or did he leave behind more than just traumatized kids? Voices over an intercom, orders barked at her in French, and then the mask drops. Pascal is confirmed as her captor. The butler with the macarons is the one calling the shots. Combined with Sidwell's sketchy business, it sure feels like Wyndemere is not just a castle, it's a front for something much darker, and Anna is at the center of it. Looking ahead to tomorrow, spoilers say Portia is rushed to a room where Britt promises she's right there, calming her and the baby. Trina confides in Kai, saying she doesn't recognize her parents anymore. Curtis, behind bars, tells Jordan he has a plan and needs her help. Molly shares a secret that might involve Britt and Cody's dance or Justine's plan to target a bigger villain. Nina gets an eyeful, likely Michael and Jacinda growing closer, and Drew receives a shocking offer. On top of that, we've got long-term spoilers hinting that this week might be the week the PCPD fingers Willow as the shooter, and a potential manhunt puts every one of her worst impulses on the table. Let's talk about Willow first, because she's the beating heart of this entire mess, and also the one most likely to crack. This is a woman who survived a cult, endured abuse, lost a child, battled cancer, nearly died, and had her bone marrow miracle delivered via the very man she's now accused of shooting. Her ex-husband is weaponizing custody. Her mother is the woman her husband cheated with. Her dead twin sister, Nellie, still haunts every corner of her life. And now, she's married to Drew, not out of some epic love story, but out of strategy, survival, and maybe buried vengeance. Willow says she'd do anything for her kids, and she means it. But that's the problem. Anything for Willow has never meant calmly follow the legal process. It's meant faking, lying, sacrificing herself, and making drastic decisions without thinking them through. She hid Daisy's situation. She moved a child without leaving a clean paper trail. She joined a cult to escape her past. She's always been a caretaker with martyr energy, but now the martyrdom has an edge, she's hurt, humiliated, and backed into a corner. Emotionally, Willow's holding everything together with duct tape. Her mock trial proved she's too raw to face a real jury. Her every answer screams, "I'm not a killer, I'm just broken," but to strangers, broken looks dangerous. That's why fans are starting to wonder if Willow's next move isn't a courtroom speech, but a suitcase and a getaway car. If the PCPD brings more evidence and she thinks they're about to throw her in prison, the part of her that has always run, from her cult, from her pain, from her past, will be screaming at her to grab her kids and go. Then there's Drew. Let's be honest, GH fans, this is not the good-hearted hero we met years ago. This version is colder, more ruthless, and quietly vindictive. He's already using Scout as an emotional anchor, pulling Willow deeper into his orbit with family talk. There's speculation he might even push for Willow to formally adopt Scout in light of Sam's death, framing it as stability for his daughter while really twisting the knife on Alexis and the Davis women. It fits with a pattern, punishing people he feels crossed him, using emotional bonds like bargaining chips. Drew's shocking offer could easily tie into this. Maybe it's a deal with the DA, maybe it's a plea arrangement, maybe it's some custody maneuver where Willow stands to gain Scout if she plays along with his narrative. Either way, his agenda is not purely romantic. He wants to rewrite history so he's the wounded widower, the devoted father, and the man wronged by both Alexis and Nina, while quietly using Willow's desperation for motherhood to do it. Michael, on the other hand, is a walking contradiction. He clearly loves Wiley and Amelia. He's trying to keep their lives steady in the middle of a storm. But Michael also has a long history of using his children as leverage when he feels betrayed. He did it to Sonny, he did it to Nina, and now he's doing it to Willow. Locking down the kids at the Quartermain mansion, turning access into a weapon, that's not just protective father, that's a man who wants control. And control is Michael's drug of choice. Kristina, for once, is the grounded one. She's been through manipulative parents, mob wars, cults, and emotional whiplash. Her advice to Michael isn't just practical, it's a plea not to repeat the Corinthos family's greatest hits, using kids as pawns. She knows the damage it does. And if Willow does go off the rails, Kristina will probably be the first to see that it's trauma and desperation talking, not pure malice. Nina is Nina. Her heart is kind of in the right place. She wants to save her daughter from prison, but her methods are a disaster. She weaponized Portia's secret, tossed it into the legal arena, and then was stunned when Curtis called her out. Nina's pattern is the same. She acts out of panic, creates chaos, begs for forgiveness, and then doubles down when cornered. Her Eiffel tomorrow, possibly catching Michael and Jacinda in a compromising moment, gives her yet another loaded secret. And if GH history teaches us anything, it's that Nina with a secret is like handing a toddler a chainsaw. Curtis is complicated. He did order Selena to take care of Drew, then pulled back. That moral backpedal is classic Curtis, always trying to straddle the line between good man and guy who makes shady deals for a righteous cause. Now he's being punished for the part he tried to undo. His arrest is karma, but it's also tragic because he's genuinely trying to protect Portia and the baby. From behind bars, he's already plotting. He's going to need Jordan's help, and that alliance could get messy fast, especially with all their romantic history and lingering trust issues. Portia is an emotional landmine. She's carrying a child whose paternity she may not be fully sure of, has a past affair with Isaiah, and is haunted by her history of lying about Trina's father. Now she's being blackmailed by a dead man. Drew had something on her, and she's terrified that everything she's built with Curtis is about to implode. Her collapse isn't just physical, it's the weight of years of secrets finally crushing her. Confiding in Britt could be a turning point, because Britt understands medical guilt and complicated men better than almost anyone. Trina is watching her world fall apart, again. She grew up believing Taggart was her dad. Then the truth about Curtis came out. Now there are whispers of more secrets, more lies, more betrayals. Her confession to Kai that she doesn't even recognize her parents anymore is heartbreaking. She's at that point where she has to decide, does she cling to the version of them she loved, or does she confront the messy, flawed humans they really are? And on the more villainous side of the board, we've got Sidwell and Pascal. Sidwell looks like a slick businessman trying to save Deception, but his insistence on controlling ports, product, and branding screams mob-adjacent power grab. Buying Sonny's piers? That's not normal commerce, that's a hostile takeover. Pascal, the butler, is clearly more than a servant, and Anna's Faison-centered note decoding suggests this isn't just one psycho in a castle. This is part of a larger operation, maybe tied to old enemies, old crimes, and old obsessions Anna thought she buried with Faison's body. Okay, GH fans, let's talk about where this is all probably headed, and remember, this is speculation, not gospel. First up, the manhunt. The promo makes it clear, new evidence comes to light, and Dante asks the million-dollar question, who do you want to go after? We see a split screen with Willow and Curtis. Curtis is rich, connected, level-headed, and already arrested. He's not going on the run, if anything, he'll fight this from the inside, with Jordan and maybe even Selena involved in some twisted deal. So if the show promises a manhunt, it's hard not to assume Willow becomes the target. Picture this, Willow hears whispers that the PCPD has more evidence against her. Maybe they uncover new ballistics info, witness statements, or digital trails that place her closer to the scene than she admitted. Maybe Justine and the DA decide that with Curtis in custody, they can still hedge their bets with Willow as a backup narrative. Willow knows how fast reputations get destroyed in this town. She's watched Nellie, Nina, and even Carly get dragged. She won't survive being painted as a cold-blooded murderer, especially if it means losing her kids forever. If the stars align, opportunity, panic, maybe an unlocked door, maybe a sympathetic ally, Willow might grab Wiley and Amelia and bolt. It doesn't have to be a well-planned escape. In fact, it would be more in character if it's impulsive, fueled by pure terror. She could convince herself it's temporary, just until she finds a lawyer who believes her, just until the real shooter is caught. But once she's on the run with 2 kids, the line between protective mom and kidnapper disappears in the eyes of the law. This is where Daisy comes in. We already know Willow moved Daisy and Michael suspected as much, but there was no ironclad proof. If she runs now and takes Wiley and Amelia, it confirms a pattern. Her need to control her children, her impulse to relocate them without consent. Suddenly, all the quiet rumors become hard evidence of instability. And if the cops catch her mid-flight, a breakdown isn't just possible, it's almost inevitable. That's how you end up with Ferncliff on the table, not just prison. Now, let's blend in the Drew factor. If he really does push for Willow to adopt Scout, that adds another emotionally loaded layer. Imagine a scenario where Willow signs on, genuinely bonding with Scout as another piece of her patched-together family, only to later turn that bond into a weapon when Drew betrays her or throws her under the bus. She doesn't need to have biological children with him to destroy him. All she has to do is find a way to get him locked up or discredited, then use that adoptive tie to pull Scout away. Fans suspect she might even deliver Scout into Alexis' arms later, just to twist the knife in Drew by proving he doesn't get to decide her final loyalties. On the Curtis-Portia side, the baby crisis could go several ways. The safest soap route is early labor scare, bed rest, and a we don't know who the father is cloud hanging over the entire pregnancy. A darker path could involve a loss that shatters both of them and leaves Curtis even more determined to find whoever used his family as a legal shield. Either way, Portia's secrets with Isaiah are ticking. If that affair comes out in open court tied to a motive, it won't just threaten her marriage, it'll gut Trina all over again. Nina's Eiffel is another powder keg. If she catches Michael and Jacinda in a close moment, a hug, a near kiss, something that reads intimate, she can use that in a dozen terrible ways. She could run to Willow and stir the pot, pushing her further toward emotional overload. She could go to Michael and try to blackmail him into backing off Willow's prosecution. Or she could blurt it at exactly the worst possible time, like in front of Kristina, Alexis, or even Wiley. Nina doesn't do subtle. And every time she tries to fix something, she breaks 3 other things in the process. Curtis' plan from jail is another wild card. He might try to flip on Selena, offering cooperation in exchange for immunity or reduced charges. He might work with Jordan to set up a sting, using his own arrest as bait. There's also the possibility that Curtis starts to suspect the shooting was orchestrated by someone with a bigger agenda, someone like Sidwell, who's clearly making moves in the shadows, or even someone using Curtis and Willow as convenient scapegoats to cover a larger crime syndicate. Over at Wyndemere, Anna's story has long arc villain written all over it. Pascal could be a disciple of Faison, a relative, or just a man obsessed with Anna's past cases. Sidwell's involvement with shipping, piers, and Zinkite scream smuggling operation, and the fact that his circling deception, Max's dream, Lucy's obsession, tells us he's targeting people connected to Anna's core circle. Fans suspect this could all tie back to Brennan, Faison's legacy, or some other WSB-level conspiracy that's been simmering off-screen. Molly's secret might seem small compared to all that, but on GH, nothing is random. If it's about Cody and Britt, she could inadvertently blow up a romance or expose another layer of guilt for Britt, which might make Britt more open to confessions from Portia. If it's about Justine's plan to take down a bigger villain, Molly could be holding on to information that connects the Drew shooting to Sidwell, Selena, or even Brennan's network. A small confession now could be the breadcrumb that leads us to the true mastermind later. Bottom line? The canvas is packed. You've got Willow standing at the edge of a cliff, legally, emotionally, and mentally. You've got Curtis trapped in a tightening legal vice, still trying to play hero. You've got Portia breaking under the weight of old lies and new danger. You've got Nina flinging gasoline on every emotional fire she finds. And above them all, in a creepy castle with French commands and coded notes, Anna is staring down the ghost of Faison's legacy. So, GH fans, here's where we leave you on the edge of about 10 cliffs at once. Will this really be the week the PCPD points the finger squarely at Willow and launches a manhunt that sends her running with Wiley and Amelia? Or will Curtis' arrest and Nina's last-minute bombshell be enough to shift suspicion just long enough for Willow to make an even more dangerous choice? Will Portia's baby survive the stress, and if it does, will we ever get a straight answer about the paternity? Can Trina ever fully trust her parents again, or is this the beginning of her pulling away from both Curtis and Portia for good? Is Drew quietly setting Willow up for the emotional betrayal of a lifetime, using Scout and the promise of family as weapons before she turns it all back on him? And if Willow does snap, are we looking at a Prison Orange storyline, or a breakdown that lands her at Ferncliff instead of Pentonville? What about Nina? Will her big rifle be Michael and Jacinda? And if so, will she blow up his life out of spite, guilt, or some twisted idea of justice for Willow? And over at Wyndemere, is Sidwell just a greedy businessman, or is he tied to Pascal, Brennan, and a whole new wave of Faison-style horror for Anna Devane? Drop your theories in the comments, because this storyline is one bad decision away from going completely off the rails. Do you think Willow runs? Does Curtis take the fall? Does Nina finally learn when to shut up? Or are we heading straight for a finale where Willow, Drew, Curtis, Portia, and Nina are all dragged into the same courtroom chaos? Let me know what you think, GH fans, whose life blows up first, and who walks away from this mess stronger? Or is Port Charles about to learn that sometimes, nobody walks away clean?